Welcome once again to Philosophy Online Lecture. We are still on philosophy of law and we'll be looking at the natural law, okay? Understanding the natural law and the periods, also various philosophers and scholars' position on the natural law. Now, when we are talking about the natural law, we are talking about laws that are known naturally. They are inherent in every humans. They are universal, and it has to do with rationality. Okay, so they are inherent moral principles that guides our actions. Okay, so like naturally, we see some things as good and some things as bad, even without them being written down. You say, no, 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 this thing is not good. Oh, no, 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 this thing is bad. Okay, so that is the basis of natural law. Okay, for example, if you see a black man with a blonde hair, you say, why are you carrying this kind of hair? It's not natural now. Okay, so that is some smaller aspects of our views on what is right and what is wrong. Okay, so uh, we comment some things as right because they are natural and some things as wrong because they are not natural. Okay, for example, the case of same-sex marriage, many of us condemn it because it is not natural for a man to marry a man or a woman to marry a woman, and they cannot give birth by nature. Okay, so that is an example. Okay, so we had the case of an English judge who revoked the marriage of of a man who got married to a transgender woman, a man that converted to a woman. Okay, he pronounced the marriage null and void because it is not natural. Okay, so those are some brief explanation of what the natural law is. Okay, so we can now say that the law, nature itself, intend us as men to behave in certain ways and also forbid some actions, okay, for us as humans. Okay, so this is the origin of the natural law. Okay, so man awareness of the natural law is universal. Okay, but it is expressed differently. We have an idea of natural law here in Africa. They have in the America, in China, Asia, and so on. Okay, but it is expressed differently. For example, it is natural for us to bury the dead. Okay, but the way we bury the dead here is different from the way it is buried in India. Okay, but it is natural for us to do or to bury the dead. Okay, so it is universal but expressed differently. A culture might emphasize the obligation while another one culture might emphasize human rights. Okay, but the point is that natural law is universal, it is eternal, it is also immutable, that is known naturally. Okay, so the law of nature also could be divided into the prescriptive sense and the descriptive sense. The prescriptive sense is the sense in which the nature intends us to behave in a certain way, and the major point is that we should do good and avoid evil. Okay, that is in the prescriptive sense. Okay, the descriptive sense is observation of how things happen uniformly in the universe. Okay, like we know we have a time for rain and a time for sun. Okay, and a time for snow in some part of the world. Okay, these are not prescriptives because we are not the one that prescribe those things. We just observe that those things happen like in a mechanical way. Okay, naturally. Okay, so that is in the descriptive sense. Okay, now so let's take a look at periods and philosophers in the natural law. Okay, now let's in the ancient Greek period. In the ancient Greek period, they were concerned about what the underlying principle of what constitutes reality. Okay, but also some were concerned not only about the universe alone but also man itself. Okay, so we have in this period the natural law being referred to as the common law or the law of nature. Okay, now one philosopher Heraclitus, in one of his work, he mentioned the divine law. Okay, this divine law to Heraclitus was uh, a law which all human laws are sustained by. Okay, and this divine law is eternally strong. Okay, and takes precedence over every other law. So all laws are derived from this divine law, this first law. Okay, so or the primordial law. Okay, that is on Heraclitus view. Okay, now we also have another this is not a philosopher, but he's also a scholar, Sophocles. Now Sophocles held that the unwritten law, natural law is an unwritten law, is higher than the state law, and it takes precedence in case of conflict. That is, when the state law is in conflict with unwritten law, the unwritten law, the natural law, takes precedence over the state law. Now he explained this in his story of someone called Artigon, a lady who the state forbid to bury her brother. Okay, so Artigon, was a judgment was passed that she should not bury her brother according to the state law, but she went ahead to do what, to bury her brother, saying that the uh, natural law is natural and it is eternal, it is immutable, and it takes precedence over the state law. So the state law cannot ask her to do what? Not to bury her brother. Okay, so another people who were advocate of the natural law were the sophists. Okay, in the pre-Socratic era. Now the sophists saw the natural law as the ideal law, the ideal standard which the state must conform to. Okay, so they condemned every uh, laws of the government that were against the natural law. Okay, uh, like Hippias of Elis held or spoke of the unwritten law as those laws that were not enacted by men and they are universal. Okay, that is Hippias of Elis. Okay, so another sophist, Artiphon, saw the natural law as one that is inherent in man and a product of truth. Artiphon saw the natural law as a product of truth, while he saw the state law as a product of mere opinions. Okay, so he also spoke against the suppression of the barbarians in the Greek state. Okay, because to him nature made every man equal, but in the Greek state they saw the barbarians as inferior to the Greeks themselves. Okay, so it's but to ask for, he said that nature has made men equal. There is nothing like, it is the state law that said that some people are slaves, some people are masters, but nature made all of us equal. Okay, God made all men free. It is men that chose to call some people slave. Okay, according to his statement. Okay, so the sophists use the natural law to criticize oppressive leaders. Okay, so that is for the pre-Socratic. Now let's take a look at Plato and Aristotle. Now Plato was one of the founding fathers of philosophy of law and the natural law. He saw the natural law as the law of reason. Okay, the law of reason is the ideal law. Okay, when the law fails, the reason does not fail. Plato was an idealist, a man who held rationality and reason in high regard. Okay, so his position was that the positive laws are only imperfect expression of the natural law. Okay, so let me explain this using Plato Republic. In Plato Republic, he said that there is no need for law because all men in the republic are rational. Okay, so when all men are perfectly rational, there is no need for law because naturally we know what is right to do and what is wrong to do. So we are constrained to do what is right, okay, in an ideal society, okay. But it is because of men imperfection, okay, because the ideal society is not actually practicable, is only an idea, okay. So it is because men are imperfect, that is why there is a need for uh, the positive laws to be created in order to guide us to act rightly, okay. But the law of reason is the ideal law, okay. So Plato said that non-virtuous men needs the positive law to guide them because of their weakness, okay. Now Aristotle also shared in the view of Plato by accepting that reason is the ideal law. Any law that is rational is the ideal law of human conduct. And he also said that a virtuous man is always guided by the rule of reason. Okay, the rule of reason we know is the natural law. Okay, so he differentiated between natural justice and legal justice. He said that natural justice applies everywhere, okay, and to everyone, okay. But legal justice depend on law or conventions of the state, okay. So now that is that on the Socratic era. Now moving to the medieval era, you start from Paul, the Apostle Paul, okay, in the Christian Bible, uh, who differentiated between the law of Moses and the law of nature. He said that the law of Moses is bond, okay, and because it is fixed, it's people perish, okay, because man cannot always obey it. But the law of nature, rather, it is engraved in our heart. It is not written, okay. Now, this law of nature is engraved in our hearts, and it is the law at which God used to govern all of us irrespective of our race. You know, Paul works extended for across all race, okay. So he held that this law of nature is not limited to a particular tribe alone, but to everyone, okay. So now that is Apostle Paul. Saint Augustine held that the natural law is the law of reason and the will of God, which God used to command and make which command the preservation in the natural order, okay. And this is the reason and also the will of God. That is, the natural law is the reason and will of God. Okay, so St. Augustine also held that any positive law that contradicts the natural law is null and void. Okay, lastly, in the medieval period, we have Thomas Aquinas, who held that the universe is governed by divine reason. Okay, now he held that eternal laws are adapted in different being in the universe according to their nature. The eternal laws are in every being in the universe, that is, it is universal, okay, and it is based on the nature of those beings in that universe, okay, and it is based on their nature that God governs them, okay. So like God governs humans being based on their nature, animals based on their nature, and so on. Okay, so those are on the medieval period. Now, in the modern period, we have Hugo Grotius and Immanuel Kant. Now, Hugo Grotius uh, theory of the natural law transited the natural law from the medieval period to the modern period, where he introduced a secular dimension. That is, he didn't root the natural law in religion, okay, like in the medieval period, okay. So but he was a natural law advocate. So removing religion from natural law, we could go to say that even if God does not exist, the natural law still should take precedence, okay. Any law that is against the natural law is null and void. Okay, but he is not saying that God does not exist. He's saying that the natural law is independent of God. Okay, so this was how he made the natural law secular, and this influenced 17th and 18th century writers who started writing on the natural law irrespective of their belief in God. Okay, so now the last modern scholar we are looking at is Immanuel Kant, and Immanuel Kant explained that man is subject to two uh, rules, two laws which are universal. That one of this law is the physical law, and this other is the moral law. Now, this is so because he believed that man belonged to two worlds, the phenomenal world and the nominal world. Okay, so in the physical aspect, that is the first one, man is man belongs to the phenomenal world. Okay, and we are subject to the physical law of nature. Okay, now in the second world, which is the nominal world, it is a rational aspect of man. Okay, and in this aspect, we are subject to the moral law. The rational aspect which subject us to the moral law. The moral law, to human account, regulates human behavior, and it is based on man rational nature. Okay, so he also used the explanation of the ideal society of Plato to explain how law is not needed if we are all perfect, but law is now needed because of our imperfection. Okay, that is why we need the moral law. Okay, so because passion and emotion limits man. Okay, so because of this we need the moral law. Okay, so but if all of us are rationally perfect, we do not need the moral law to guide us, because naturally we will be constrained to do what is right and avoid what is evil. Okay, so this is on the concept of the natural law and the various period with their philosophers. Now we'll be next video we'll be looking at the decline of the natural law and the revival of the natural law. Thank you so much for watching.